Okay, so if you're running your own Facebook ads, I've been testing a few, so this is really what my take on them and what worked for me for my particular ad that I was running. So the kind of thing I was trying to do was get people to sign up to a webinar. So I was running Facebook ads and I was sending them from Facebook to a webinar registration page. So I'm going to give you sort of 3 different models that you can try and test. One of the key things with Facebook ads is test. Just constantly test everything. So you're testing your headline on your page and you're testing your ad. So let's say this is my little Facebook ad we've got here. What I was doing, I was sending ads straight to a page. I just had some information on it, a headline and a name and email form for a webinar. Okay, so this was a webinar page, and they would go there and they would then register for the webinar and get on the webinar and take the webinar and follow it through. Now I spent about £30, I got 5 leads, and that was increasing. It wasn't very good at all. So when I say testing, you can test everything from the headline on this page down to the button color on this page, but then you've also got to test everything on the Facebook ad as well. So that's like the headline, the copy, the image that you use in it, the call to action and stuff. So there's lots of testing to do, but one thing I tried to do was keep the ad the same because it was getting clicks and it was getting impressions, but I wasn't getting huge conversions. So I knew that I had to work on the page where people were going to and the sign up. So I played around with testing this, and through this period, a lot of time with Facebook ads, it sometimes take a lot of time to build up and get some steam in them. The more people that interact with the ad, the more likely it's going to get seen by other people. So Facebook will start moving it around and putting it in front of more people if people are liking the ad. So I was doing that. I was sending leads straight to a webinar page, and I think I spent about £20 and 18 leads. Now, to me, that wasn't very good at all. It was poor. Like it ran for quite a long time. But I knew I had to test this process, and my main goal was to get people onto the webinar. So the next thing. So what I done next was I took the same principle, left the same ad, changed the image, and I ran people to a landing page this time for an ebook, okay? And the ebook was obviously related to the webinar that was running. So let's say we got our ebook, and I was sending my traffic from Facebook straight to my ebook page and simply name and email. Okay, and then after that, once they signed up for my ebook, I then sent them to another page, and guess what? That had the webinar. Okay, and again, so that was like a registration button. They could click and register and see all the different times and stuff on that page. So that was more effective. That worked quite well. I got people going from a Facebook ad to an ebook, and on the thank you page was the webinar registration form. So effectively the thank you page is the webinar registration form. So you're saying, here they sign up, by the way, do you want to get on my webinar? So that's another thing you can try. Try that process, see if it works. If it does, you've got to keep testing this. The key thing is to keep testing, keep testing. So that was another one. That was number 2 that I tried. That one kind of worked okay. That ran for about 2 weeks. Leads, I got a few more leads on this method compared to the other one. I think because maybe the ebook was very related to the ad that I was running. It mentioned the same stuff. It was very related as well, and I got more sign-ups for the webinar. And I think the more sign-ups I got came in play because the ebook was so related. So it was about lead magnets, and this was a webinar on lead magnets. So the people who were signing up to this were then like, "Hey, that's interesting. Let's go on to that." So having a related product worked really well. Third thing that you can try is this: Facebook ad to a blog post, and you get people come into your blog post to read content about this ad. Now, fair enough, this ad is going to be completely different, so your ad is going to run, it might include an image, and it might also say read this content. So this is what I would call an ad to content, okay, and it's just on a blog, so it's just effectively a blog post. Okay, run the ad directly to that blog post. Now what I done inside that blog post was had things like buttons telling people about the webinar, and from here they could click through and go to my webinar registration form. Okay, so let's just put reg. So what I was doing, I was sending an ad to content, read the content. If they digest the content, they also find the webinar links through it. Again, this piece of content was related to the webinar as well. So it was about lead magnets. The ad was also related. So all this stuff here is related content. You're always keeping it related so people they're familiar with what they're reading. They've got an ad about lead magnets, they read a blog post about lead magnets, and then they've got a chance to get a webinar covering lead magnets. So it's keeping it all related, and that's what really worked well for this method, I think. For me, this was another good method. I then went and tested this method. So what I'd done from here was I gave them the chance to either register for the webinar, or I gave them a chance to just register for, to download the ebook. Now with the ebook option, they got the ebook, I sent them to the thank you page, and all it done was thank them and told them to look out for an email. Okay, so I registered here, they download the ebook, get the thank you page, and I send them an email. Now inside the email that they got was a link, a one-click registration link that they can click on to go and register for the webinar. So there's quite a few steps that I've shown you there that can really get quite complicated. The thing is just to keep testing it, okay? So find out what works really well for you. Once you've done about 4 or 5 different tests, find out what works really well, and then start tweaking that one test. So for this one worked well for me, send them to content. So I started testing register for the webinar, register for the ebook. And from the ebook, it'd either be send them the email where they one click to register for the webinar, so there's less actions for them to do. You could then go another step further and do the same sort of thank you page registration I'd done in the last one. So they'd click on here to get the content upgrade, which is the ebook, and then on the thank you page, there it is, they can register for the webinar. I tried the email option, so it had a one-click registration. They click on a link and then they're instantly registered for the webinar. So it saves them having to do more clicking and more filling out forms. So there are things you could test with your own Facebook ads. And I mean, like I said before, you definitely want to test stuff, keep testing, test headlines, button colors and all that. Now, to go another step further and to go slightly deeper into this whole process, especially with this method, the content method, what you can do here is if people read this content, you can start pixeling them through a Facebook pixel. And that's like a piece of code that you put on your site. It's a script that you put on to your blog or onto your web page, and that puts a cookie or a pixel on their computer. So what happens now is next time they go back to Facebook, you can retarget them so they see one of your ads. So if you're not familiar with retargeting, what we're doing is we're tracking people who visit our website, and we're going to retarget them with an ad on Facebook. So this might be ad number 1 that they initially see about a piece of content, but then you could retarget them with another ad, number 2, and that could say something like, hey, you've just visited my site, or you might be familiar with this. If you do this quite well, you would obviously show them the piece of content that they've already seen, and then you would retarget them with a very similar piece of content or a similar lead magnet, something. It could even be something like, hey, did you miss the ebook about this piece of content? You know, did you miss the webinar that we had about this piece of content? So the beauty of retargeting is that it's obviously, they've already seen your brand is then becoming recognized, and they're seeing a bit more of it, and then they see you again. It's a reminder about the webinar you had on. This can obviously get quite expensive as well. You want to leave this running for a while, but the retargeting is going to be a bit more expensive than just running straight ads. However, if the retargeting works, you're more likely to get a more credible lead onto your own email list. Okay, so I suggest you watch this video back again. This is all quite confusing, it can be confusing, but the key thing is to test what you do. Run some ads to your pages, test it. Does it work? Change something. Run some ads for a piece of content, test it. What's happening on the page? What are they doing on the page? And so on and so forth. I hope that gives you an idea into Facebook ads and just a quick little, 3 or 4 little strategies that you can try for yourselves. This could be applied to any business that you're working in, even if you've got your own course that you're selling online or you're selling digital products. Give it a go, try it. You obviously need some blog post content, but let us know your results, let us know how you get on, and I'll keep posting more of my progress and more of the tests that I do on my own site. So until next time, we'll go and run some more tests.